Welcome, dear friends, to Kardec Radio and the program What is Spiritism? Yes, it is the book by Kardec. And you may say, I already read the book. Yeah, but studying it is different. And we're welcoming everyone to join us in this conversation. It's an educational conversation about Kardec's writings. In the book, What is Spiritism? He kindly shares conversations between people who don't know about Spiritism, their questions, their statements, and how he addresses them, teaching us how to have these natural conversations that will last for decades on earth till people become acquainted with Spiritism. If you have any doubt that Spiritism is destined to be known on earth, just think that in 1857, nobody knew of it. And today, we're here at Kardec Radio, talking to the world about it, connected with people from all different countries around the world, and more people become students of Spiritism, practitioners of Spiritism, and they share the wonderful news. So it's just hand in hand with humanity's progress on earth. There's no doubt about it. And just so you see, we have friends in this program from different places, different countries, different states in the United States, who are dedicating themselves and have dedicated themselves to studying and practicing Spiritism, and they haven't given up. Today we have two friends who will be joining us. You've seen them before at some point, and you will see them again. First of all, we'll bring the one who is the farthest from us. Yes, from Atlanta, Georgia to Kardec Radio, our friend Sergio Santos. Thank you so much, Sergio, for being here with us. How are you?
I'm good, Vanessa. Thank you so much for the invite. It's always a pleasure to talk and have a conversation about Kardec. So it's
Yeah,
always thank you.
it's wonderful to have you here. And just so people know, you used to be devoted to Spiritism in New York with the Inner Enlightenment Spiritist Society. And then you and Marcelo Medeiros, moved to Atlanta, Georgia, continue your efforts there. And now you're with this um, newly formed group, Caritas Spiritist Group, right?
Yes, it is. And it's a baby. We just opened to the public, for like a couple months ago. And we're studying the gospel, like from the beginning, from the introduction. So every
That's
week we meet online for now until we grow a little more, and then we can actually open a center or who knows, see what the spirituality wants for
oh,
us.
yes. That's wonderful. So we are looking forward to talking to you about these studies. We know you have coordinated meetings before, and specifically about this book, What is Spiritism? What was your first impression when you first got to know of this book? I know it's been a while, but now you're revisiting it. Is it for you? What does it represent?
I didn't start with it. I wish I did.
Yeah, I know.
I started with the Spirit's book and studying Spirit's book, then Gospel, Medium's book, and all of them. And then I got to what is Spirit. I was like, it's almost a great summary. And like you said on the opening, it's a great way for us to see questions that will come to us as spiritists, like what is spiritism and how we can talk about spiritism to others. It's not an easy subject to start like in that conversations, but depending where you are, and you can be judged for no reason. So what spiritism helps a lot with that. Helps a lot with us, like, hey, let's talk about the good things. Let's talk about Christ. Let's talk about love. That's basic. So I really enjoy this book because it brings this summary and enriches with ways of talking about it, spiritism.
That's wonderful. So now let's bring our dear friend and host at Kardec Radio. She's a member of the Spirit Side of Virginia. She's a host at Kardec Radio. Thank you, Deise, for being here with us. How are you?
Thank you, Vanessa, for having us here and for hosting this wonderful program. We are learning so much together and together with our Kardec. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, and especially today, right, Daisy? We're talking about. It's so interesting that Kardec, in the second part of the book, What Spiritism, he titled at item 50, The Providential Aim of Spirit Manifestations. So, we're living at a time in which many people think that it's quite playful to knock at psychics' doors and just get to know. And they think it's like very casual. Like, oh, let's go there. Some people even drink, walk through the streets. And then when you least expect, they are entering the psychic places. They are paying people to read their fortune. And surprisingly, Kardec doesn't think that that's the way to go, right, Daisy?
That's it, Vanessa. And that is so interesting because that is exactly what Kardec brings to us in this part of this chapter, saying that if we think that talking to spirits, they are like fortune tellers, that they're gonna come and they're gonna reveal our future or they're gonna tell us what to do, we should think twice. And I think it's a big warning for all of us because, as you said, this is so serious, and people play with it. They think that they can just, you know, go there for fun, and not only for the person who is thinking that, okay, I'm just gonna go there, get my fortune told, but also how those who are quote unquote being the mediums, how they are getting entangled and involved in people's lives. It's very serious, and we have seen it in so many books, especially in Emmanuel's books, how the end is very tragic and can be very tragic.
Exactly. So, Sergio, in Atlanta, you also may see, right? It's in some corners, psychic places, and
Yes.
you may know people who actually engage into those places. They go in, they want to know about their future. And Kardec says to us that the aim of spirit is manifestations, communications. It's not for these. He says it would be completely wrong to see spirits as merely fortune tellers, helpers.
It is.
So,
Like, if we go back to the thinking of like the phone rings from there to here, not from here to there, right? That's the really big thing that Kardec like brings, like the analogy of the phone, not Kardec, but anyway. Uh, so the idea is like, how can you guarantee if you're being paid that a spirit will show up if they're the one that calls, like not you calling them? So like that's one thing that Kardec is really bringing. There are a lot of little things that you have to think about it. Like, yes, you might be lucky one day, and because you really need some help, and a really generous spirit benefactor will help you through a medium that's doing that. But that's not common. That's not what normally happens. It might happen. It's like one in a billion chance, whatever number is. But you have to think like Kardec is very specific of what the intent. The spirits are very specific of the intent of the communication. And if you're frivolous, like you said, like you're walking around and drinking and just going to see your fortune teller, that's normally not a good thing. Not the good spirit. Can you imagine a spirit, an elevated spirit, like being there just by the fortune teller and waiting for you walking in with your drink and smoking or doing your thing and partying and asking like from something very serious about your life, and they're going to answer you like, well, they have better things to do. They're working for us. They're probably helping you in other ways, your guardian angels, but not really giving you a message that will enlighten you in that sense. So I think Kardec is very careful with the notes here on like it's about the intent. It's about like what you really need. It's about like your posture towards the spirits as well, your respect towards the spirits as well. So there's a lot to be like this chapter is very small, but there's a lot to talk about it.
It's very small, but he says, as you mentioned, seer spirits refuse to concern themselves with useless matters. Frivolous, mocking spirits concern themselves with anything and everything, respond to anything and everything. It's so interesting. You have a group of friends, and there will be people who will give their opinion about any and everything just because they don't know, but they say it. There are people who are more wise, they are wiser, and they refrain from entering conversations like that. And the same happens in the spiritual realm. So I remember going to, you remember, you've been to Lilydale, right? Sergio?
I did not.
No,
No, I didn't make.
no. But the Yes group was there last time we were, right before the pandemic. And um, there are reading sessions there. And I've seen mediums working on spot and coming to people saying, um, this person pointed to a person in the audience and said, you're going to move to another house in Florida. And the person said, but I'm not. I have no plan on moving. No, but you will. And then the person, the medium continued saying, you will. You're going to move to Florida. You're going to live in this street, gave the name of the street. And the person said, no, I'm not. So it's so embarrassing. And I wonder if that reading changed that person's life, because it's doubtful that higher spirits will come and dictate the next steps of our lives. And this is what many people don't know. Another occurrence. I remember at the University of Maryland, one day I was talking to somebody who worked in the administration. She was very sympathetic. And then we were talking about something about life. It was the end of the year. And she said, I already called my psychic. And I said, what? She said, yes, I called my psychic to know about my new year. I want to know what's going to happen in my career, in my love life, in my family, in my health. I need to know ahead of time. And I was like, is that possible? Is that possible? Do you think, Deise, that the high spirits are gonna come and say, oh, Deise, your new year's gonna be like that?
No.
Why
Yeah.
would
Yes. Well, and that's exactly what Kardec brings to us, because he's saying we need to have the merit to make the decisions and go through our lives. So the point or the goal of this communication with the spirits is not that they come, as you're saying, right, Vanessa, and tell us what to do. If we go to any spirit center or any spiritual places where people are doing like you're saying, and they're saying you should do X, Y, and Z, we should rethink where we are, because the elevated spirits, they will never do that. They provide us guidance, as Kardec says, through inspirations, but they leave the merit for us to do the work and to do the research. So the goal of this communication, to be able to communicate through the both realms, as Kardec exemplified to us, is to help us, and he says, first, to tell us that life doesn't end when our physical lives ends, and then to give us a better idea what happens in the future, and which is exactly what Kardec brought to us. Questions about what happens after our physical body dies, what is our purpose to be here. So that is the goal. The goal is not to tell us you should buy a car tomorrow, or you should move to this country or to that country, because we are the ones that need to make the decisions. And if God allows us to do that, why would the spirits come and interfere with our free will? Elevated spirits will never do that.
Just to add on that, like if you go even to the number 53, he's like even more specific. He adds to it and say like those manifestations are not supposed to be material things. It's not. They're not supposed to be bringing material informations. It's all about our morals, the moral consequences of it. So if we think of it like Kardec is bringing, like, why would you be asking, oh, give me the numbers of the lottery, the Mega Million, or whatever it is? Why? Like, why would the spirits do that? Like, what? Why? Like, you're supposed to be. If you ask maybe for something moral, like, hey, how can I improve my anxiety? How do I improve this? How do I don't know, change this in my life? Or how do I something improvement? Then the spirits might be helping, but like still, like we don't go to a fortune teller and ask for those moral things normally. Like, well, at least all the people that I know that go, when I ask what they ask, they say something very normally a very frivolous, but I might be wrong. Like, I don't know. I've never been in one, so
Yes. So we have a question here from Rafael. If you have any group out from Facebook, do you think they are asking about the Caritas group, Rafael, Sergio?
if the Caritas, we do have a group.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, a page.
a
I
page, right?
I think I share with you, Vanessa. I don't know if I can share here.
Yeah,
I can share in the chat in a bit. If we can.
yeah. Okay, so while we find a way to share, thank you, Rafael, for asking. We want to tell everybody that, we have Cardiac Radio. We have Cardiac Radio on YouTube with more than 174 playlists, almost 10,000 videos, podcasts. And we have Kardec Flicks for you, all organized for you according to topics. And you can go there and find lots of studies there, on demand. Nowadays, even universities, people take courses on demand, and they graduate just like that by studying on demand. So if people are waiting for a live group, they have to make it better. I have somebody here, Virginia, with us. Hello. Yeah, she wants to contribute. Virginia, we're talking about how, the spirit manifestations, when they come, they help us understand that life hasn't ended here, right? So many people believe that this is it for this life. But don't you think that knowing that life goes on changes the way we live this life?
Yes, for some people.
Yeah, like how?
Like you always think that I, like, I have, even if, like, if you do very well, you will be celebrated in the afterlife. So it's a very good, you know, idea of how you you can do so many good things, and just to know that it doesn't end here. You can keep doing good things in other lives. It's just very
Consoling,
it's very helpful.
right?
But for some people, they're just scared of it.
Yeah, because they don't understand, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Virginia, for helping. Thank you. She was willing to help us, and we found a way. Thank you, Virginia. Thank you. All right. Yeah, it's good when our children, our family partake in this effort. So, going back, Kardec says, and in this part, he says the types of spirits. And he mentions spirits help persons of genius through inspiration. They are not going to tell us how to do things. I'll tell you a true account. I have many stories, but one I'll never forget. I was at a business meeting. It was a scientific meeting. All scientists seated together talking about a project. And I confess I was bored because I was like seeing no point in the discussion. Because Spiritism teaches us so much ahead that when you see people like stumbling, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could just say it. But I wasn't paying attention, I confess. And then the spirit mentor said, Vanessa, can you please pay attention? And I entered this conversation mind to mind, and I said, why? We know this is fruitless, huh? It's just one of those. Me said, no, no, no. Pay attention, please. I obeyed because bad spirits will never tell you to pay attention. They will say the opposite. So I said, okay. So I looked at, we were discussing, in the middle of the table, there was a graph of some experiments. I said, the spirit said, oh, pay attention. I looked at the graph, I paid attention. And in my mind, I asked, where did these experiments come from? And then the spirit told me, good question. Why don't you ask them this question? Okay. Then I asked them, all men. I was the only woman. I asked them, excuse me, who did these experiments? X X lab, the lab of a certain person, but the person wasn't there. Well, but I don't recognize anybody in this person's lab who knows how to do these experiments. So who did it? So everybody said, Vanessa, why don't you go to their lab and ask who did the experiment? So I went there and asked the technician, the postdoc, the graduate student, and everybody said, I don't know. We didn't do it. So I went back and I talked to them and the director, like, they don't know. So the director of the program said, don't worry, tomorrow I'll talk to this person and ask. To make it a short story, we've come to know of a fraud. I won't say more because it's confidential. But I'll tell you this, the good spirits will not come to us and say the whole story. They will inspire us and they will be with us step by step as we make an effort. So this is the secret effort. They say if they see us profiting from their counsels, making efforts, they will be with us, guiding us, saying, turn to the right, pay attention, observe, and then imagine if we hadn't listened to the spirit, if we hadn't paid attention, if we had not taken action. And this happens in our daily lives. The problem is, some people come to me, Deise and Sergio, and say, but Vanessa, I'm not a medium. Then I would say otherwise. Everybody listens to the voice, but people don't obey. They doubt, they are hesitant. The spirits say to all of us, the good spirits, they always will guide us through dreams, through people in our lives. When we don't listen, we're stubborn. And then we can't complain, saying, oh, but nobody told me. No, they told us.
Mhm.
Right, Daisy?
They do, Vanessa. And as you're bringing to us, it, it remind me, it's an exercise that we need to do to always pay attention, because the intuitions or the comes, or sometimes comes through a friend who says something, or even a stranger that you meet, and then it's on us to use our discernment and ask, you know for example, we might be walking on the street, and then we see someone that might need help, but we're not sure, and then something tells you, do this or ask this question, offer help. And we're like, oh no, you know, I'm just gonna mind my business. Cool. They're gonna think I'm crazy. And would a bad spirit ever comes to us and tell us to help someone? No, on the contrary. So this is just an example of how, if we use our discernment and listen to the signs, to our intuitions, making sure that we're paying attention to our dreams, because they can take us, the spirit mentors, to the spiritual realm to receive treatment, to really have sessions like therapeutic sessions in the spiritual realm. So we are being guided, but we have to do our part, right? If we stay the whole day connected only to the material things, which is what Kardec says, you know my job, my money, my promotion, or my family, or everything that is material, then we think then we use the spirits, has then Kardec saying, like a fortune teller, and then we're like, oh, please help me accomplish X, Y, and Z, and that's all we pray for, right?
Mhm.
We're not truly staying in that higher connection throughout the day, so that we can truly use their inspiration. So it depends on us, our connections, what are we thinking, what are we doing, so we can maintain ourselves higher to be able to connect with the higher spirits.
Yes, and look at this, Sergio. Item 52. Kardec says something quite striking. Apart from what can be of help to moral progress, there's nothing but uncertainty contained in revelations that may be received from spirits.
Yes.
I don't think he's radical. He's just saying the way it works, right, Sergio?
And I think, well, personal opinion a little bit here, on the people that look for those help of, like, they're asking for the future, they're asking for the material things.
Yeah.
It's a sign of, like, maybe an anxiety that's going on, or like they don't have the patience to wait for the tomorrow, or they want people to hand them, like, the on a tray what's going to happen. And that's not a healthy thing, in a way, if you think deeply, like, it's psychologically on it. So if you're thinking of, you shared a personal story, I can share a little bit of mine, like coming to Georgia. We were hanging out at home, me and Marcelo. Pandemic, my studio was closed, completely shut down, in the middle of the whole New York shutdown thing. And Marcelo was working from home and got a tweeter from his work, from the place that he wanted to work. And should I apply to this? Is in Georgia. I was like, yeah, sure. Not gonna happen anyway. But, like, well, go for it. In 2 months, we were in Georgia. So if the spirituality wants you to do something, they'll make it happen. Everything went so smoothly. You can ask Marcelo. I think he's speaking in a couple of days or so, in a couple of shows or so. And from our lease in New York, finish on the perfect timing, to the getting a lease here right on the next month, to find the apartment online, Like everything works so smoothly. Like he got the job super fast, uh, sort of fast, but like was really really like what the spirituality. They want to take us from New York, so we understood that. So now we had to figure out what they want us to do here. So
Exactly.
that's us now meditating about it. Like, okay, so we're here. What we're gonna do now? We are growing our roots and we're figuring the things out. So that's the whole magic of living. We learn. We had to try not to fight what the spirituality tells us. Like Daisy were saying beautifully, like we get these inspirations. We have to follow it. Like, hey, help someone. That's beautiful. Sometimes it's like you get, oh, but I'm shy to do it, or things like that. It's okay. Find your way that it's more comfortable for you until you build up that confidence or that know-how to help others. And that's the beauty of it. The spirituality knows, like our guardian angels and the spirits benefactors are with us, know us much better than we do ourselves incarnate, like right now. So they know what we are capable of. They know what we want. So why would be like, oh, so give me all the answers? No,
No.
no. We
Yeah.
had to learn. We had to have the merit.
Yeah.
Nothing that comes handled like in silver platters. We recognize so well. Like nothing that comes in. Okay, you that like you said, the media said, hey, you're gonna move to Florida and do this, and
Gosh.
why? Like that's not okay. That's not right.
And Sergio, he says, Kardec says, the first regrettable consequence, because we can't forget that in life there is the law of action reaction. Everything you do, there's a consequence. So you go after a psychic, a fortune teller. He says it's regrettable because they divert their faculty from its providential aim to be fooled by the deceitful spirits that swarm around people. The second is to fall under the control of these same spirits who can, by way of false advice, lead them to material and real misfortune. And the third is to lose after death the benefit of having known Spiritism. Now, Emmanuel, we know he wrote some novels. They are not fiction, they are true accounts, but in the novel format. 2000 years ago, 50 years later, Hail Christ, Renunciation, Paul and Stephen. So in the first two, 2000 years ago and 50 years later, we see Emmanuel, through the medium Chico Xavier, reporting to us in both books the habit that people had in the first years of Christianity to see psychics and to ask for favors, not only to tell the future, but help them achieve their wishes and desires. And we'll never forget in both books, the first one is a psychic man, and the second is a psychic woman named Plotina. And in the second one, just to give an example of what Kardec is saying, the regrettable consequences, this woman, Plotina, the psychic, she tells two of the characters in the book, look, your daughter should not pursue a life with this guy because this guy doesn't belong to her. Actually, it was in the first one, right? Sorry. They say, no, no, no. And then she pursues no matter what, etc. And we know through Chico Xavier that that psychic reincarnated as a family member with the very people he changed the life. No wonder many people look at their families and they feel estranged. They like, who are you? And we forget they were the psychic who led us to disaster. And we were the person who paid the psychic so we could change our lives, and we changed their lives, and now we're family. Now we're family. 19 centuries later, they reincarnate in Brazil within the same family to learn to love one another. So the question for us is this: do you want to be family with the psychic? Right, Daisy? Why not? Why not?
We're all family, but
Right?
yeah, but
But there are
there
consequences.
are
We're
consequences.
not going to change people's destiny without consequences for the psychic and for the person who is asking for the service. So it is very important to notice that when we're using our mediumship, we are not using it without consequences. And being afraid of it and not using it doesn't do the service either. Because in another life, we will be willing to do it and we won't be able to. So, Ney Melo is here asking, is it possible that good spirits can use a psychic for a good cause when an advertent person goes there? Everything is possible, Ney, right? But rule of thumb, ignorance doesn't justify it, saying, oh, I didn't know about it, and I was just feeling insecure and I asked for help, and the spirits are going to say, oh yes, we're going to use. But let me give you an example beyond psychic. In the book Sex and Destiny, Marita is suffering from a broken heart. She's thinking of killing herself. She goes to a pharmacy to buy medication to kill herself. The pharmacist is has good intuition. He's a spiritist. The good spirits use him to help her. She tells a story about the dog, but he gets it. He gives her a sleeping medication instead of anything lethal, so she doesn't kill herself. So that's a way of spirit's intervention, as Kardec used to say, for people who would inadvertently push themselves to an abyss. But regarding fortune tellers, it's quite, as Kardec says, serious spirits refuse to concern themselves with useless matters. Right, Sergio?
And it's good to note as well that like it's all about the merits and the intents. Like if they ask like if somebody is, if it's ignorance and you're going there to ask from frivolous things or things they're not gonna, that you don't have the merit to know or things like that, yes, nothing's gonna happen. Like nothing good can happen from it, or who knows. But if you have the intent and you are completely not knowledgeable about, like some people have no idea that spiritism exists, they have no idea about this communication, they are great moral beings that live around and they're in a moment of, I don't know, maybe a desperation or something, like, oh, let me talk to someone, maybe even on the scenario that you explained from Sex and Destiny, and you're about to commit suicide and you go in, you might get help, you might probably help. Because if you go back, we go back to the mediums book, they say the spirits will use the tools as mediums that they have. Can be a great medium that's attuned, morally working, doing their work and things like that. And sometimes with some people they're not. But like if the information needs to come through, they'll find a way. But that's, we're talking to us about exceptions here. We're not talking that's not gonna happen. Like Vanessa is saying, like, it's not gonna happen because you don't know it's gonna happen. No, I agree with Vanessa 100% on that. But in an extreme exception,
They,
that might happen.
they might.
So we can't just take this away as well. And that's why we don't know, because sometimes some psychics might be even doing a moral work that's good, and we don't know either.
Yeah.
We don't know. I met some there. They actually came to me like many years ago. That she was actually quite honest and quite think that she would say like, "No, I'm sorry, I don't have communication for you.
Exactly.
I don't have things like that." And even though her little knowledge of what the consequences of things like that, because they don't learn about the consequences, the psychics. depends of their religion or way of thoughts of the psychic. They don't know the consequences. They just doing what their mediumship is telling them to do.
Yeah.
So sometimes that also brings a little help if the medium is actually the psychic or fortune teller, whatever mediumship is being used. It's actually a person of moral, a person that's using of honesty, of great intents, and is not abusing of the mediumship in any way, shape, and form. You might actually do a good work. You might actually bring a lot of healing where he goes, the person goes. So we had to really think that those are exceptions, though. Like most, of,
Yeah.
unfortunately, those are exceptions. But like
Yeah.
we can't judge everyone as well because we get to this like, hey, we're talking about the majority of the fortune tellers and thing. Kardec's talking about of a time that as well it was very big fortune tellers in France and things like that, and also really really big charlatanism,
Yeah.
especially this
But
the
talking about charlatans, I think it happens nowadays.
yes,
You know, many people, even in Spiritism,
yes,
who they want to deceive people.
Yeah.
Some people who think that by wearing white clothes in the Spiritist Center, they are going to be more respected by the public. By doing a public mediumship, they are going to go places. So they don't understand about the loss
exactly,
of life. So, as Kardec said, there is a swarm of spirits around us. And the rule is the good spirits will only lead according to our deep intentions. So, if we want to displace the intervention of bad spirits, we need to be connected to higher spirits. So, we won't be able to connect with higher spirits if we are with ill intention. I'll give you a funny account. I have great spiritualist friends who are good friends of Spiritism, but I'll never forget. I won't say the place, but we were visiting a place where there were lots of spiritualists living there. And there is this medium who was quite renowned there. And he turned to us and said, the way I distract and I deceive the bad spirits, I remodeled my house. I heard that and I asked, like, you're kidding, right? You think the spirits are foolish?
Mhm.
You think they don't know what you're thinking? So in the Spirits book, Kardec, in the chapter 9 of the second part, he says to us, the spirits know what we're thinking. We can't deceive them. Oh, I'm going to remodel the house so the spirits don't know. You think they are what? Kindergartners
Mhm.
in the spiritual realm? So some people, they want to achieve things, but they are not highly. They are not elevated. So Kardec clearly says manifestations are not meant to serve material interests. And I'll say this. In 2005, the second time I was visiting Lilydale, the spiritualist city, I love that city. Every summer they have programs. I participated in the national meeting of spiritualists, and they asked me to participate in a panel. And in that panel, they asked me if Spiritism says that mediumship should be free, what do we do since we made it a profession? I
Mhm.
sincerely had no idea about the answer, but this is how the superior spirits present there whispered in our ears. They said, well, little by little, you start donating a percentage of your income to charitable causes. Meanwhile, you find other ways to survive. to make ends met, and little by little, they're gonna help you, reverse the will. It was quite reasonable, very compassionate what they said. But do you think people like it?
No.
Them saying, I don't know what to do in life but to be a medium. I'm a medium too, but I don't earn a coin by being a medium. If we did, probably we would be very wealthy, but that's not the purpose of it, right? Daisy, when people come and they want to see phenomena just for the sake of it, out of curiosity, like show it to me, prove it to me. The good spirits are not gonna come say, "Yeah, you deserve all of our attention. We're gonna come from on high just to prove to us that life goes on." Would they do it, Daisy?
Never, never. They would never do that. I was browsing, I was on Facebook a few weeks ago, and we're part of the Facebook group of the community, where we live. And people were posting then saying that they were having a children birthday party, and they were looking for mediums that could come to be entertainers to the people. They were posting in a public Facebook group. They're asking for people that could come and do readings. And so is the intent that, do you know what are people think is like something playful, but it's something very serious. And the higher spirits, they will never utilize that. And Kardec made sure to bring to us a literature that says very explicitly that we need to give what is freely given to us, we need to pass that to others. So any type of mediumship that is paid, it's throughout Kardec's book, is a big no-no, because it's something that is given to us. Why now we're gonna think that we are able to receive any financial benefits from it? So the higher spirit, has Kardec says at the last paragraph, manifestations are not meant to serve as material interests. Their usefulness lies in their moral consequences. So if we're trying to, as Kardec was doing at a time, understand, how can this knowledge benefit us, how we can make wiser choices, as Sergio mentioned to us, that's when they're gonna truly come. But if it's to tell us to, if I should wear red or black, then, we should not expect the elevated spirits to be there.
Right. Sergio, at the very end of this part of the chapter, he says to us, the usefulness of spirit manifestation lies in their moral consequences. I think this statement is divides waters for all of us regarding mediumship. Don't you think, Sergio? It changes completely the way we understand and address mediumship. It's no longer for me to know more than others. It's not for personal advantage. It's not for financial gain. It's for collective progress. And I always say, what do you think? Of all mediums around the world, I mean, in modern times, who are the most productive mediums? The spiritist mediums, aren't they? Hmm?
Oh yeah, spiritist meetings are working a lot. I remember in the enlightenment we had a few mediumistic meetings, and there was a lot of treatments going on, a lot of help going on. It's nothing public, it's nothing like that you see on numbers, but we spiritualism is not about showing off, it's about doing the work. So I think that's the moral part of spiritism, and I think that's the beauty that Kardec's trying to bring to us. Is about us putting our sleeves up and do the work, not looking for recognition, not looking for, oh, I have more books or more this or that, because probably other religions do have some that have more. I not specialize in other religions, but they do have a lot of publications and things like that that believe in the communication with the spiritual world, of course. And but if you think of it, like, it's more about the moral, it's about what we do with this. What are the information that are given to us and why? Because one thing that the medium's book always say is like, the information first of all is for the medium. So whatever we get, mediumistically speaking, like, oh, the moral teaching that we get, we have to apply in us and not others. It's all about us. It's about our own inner transformation. That's what's difficult in Spiritism, I think. That's the most beautiful part of Spiritism, but it's the most difficult part to get people to do it because it's very painful. We have to actually know ourselves. These were speaking on the beginning, like, about like, we get those informations and these things, but if we don't know our thoughts, our capabilities, our own inner shadows, our own inner dwells, how are we going to be knowing that we're listening to good spirits or bad spirits? We're going to look, are we going to listen, are we listening to ourselves or are we listening to spirits? So we have to really think about those moral teachings. Like, sometimes it's us ourselves saying like, hey, you have to improve this. You might think there's a spirit telling you, but it's not. It's our inner deeper self coming to surface and say like, please change this, you need to. And you might think, oh, it was an elevated spirit. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I'm not an elevated spirit. I know that for sure. But that's the beauty of it. Like, it's all about trying. The beautiful passage on Spiritism is like, the true spiritist is the one that's trying to be better the next day that they were the day before. So that's what we have to do. We won't become Christ tomorrow. Like, maybe some of us might. I don't know. We don't know what happens. Like, but we are supposed to be working, and we're supposed to be thinking of the future and loving. Christ loved each one of us with all of our imperfections, all of us. He did not hang out with the healed ones, like he said. He hang out with the sick ones. So that's the beauty of Spiritism. We have to really be looking at those illnesses, and those illnesses, I mean, morally speaking, like those
Yes.
illnesses of the soul, and be like, hey, how can I be compassionate? How can I love this? How can I understand this? And in any case scenario, if you go, we're talking about mediumship today, but like that's in the use of mediumship. So even with that, we have to look at all of that with love. We have to look at all of that with, how can we improve this? How can we bring this knowledge to our friends that are fortune tellers without hurting them, without making it worse? Because that's something that we had the privilege to know. We had the privilege to read. Many people don't, and they just live as many generations. If you go to the gypsies, for example, is a knowledge that that been with them for centuries, maybe before Christ. It's something that's like really old, and it's still like, how can we bring this, like,
Yeah.
hey, you can still use your mediumship the same way you do, but with love. Maybe not charging, maybe looking for the betterment, maybe looking for, hey, good questions, like moral questions, improvement questions, channeled some way or another. That's a lot to be worked, and without empathy and without love towards our brothers and sisters, we won't go anywhere. And I think that's what Kardec is saying. Like, if we don't go to this moral, we won't be talking to nobody and bringing any healing to anybody. So that's what we really have in mind. I talked too much, sorry.
No, it is great for us. And that's why we at Kardec Radio have a great friendship with spiritualists as well, because we only share what we know. And now it's our turn to share here at Kardec Radio. It's very important to inform people of the rules of engagement in mediumship. As we said last week, this is no peanut mediumship. I remember I participated in a mediumistic circle, and these people were not spiritists. They invited us, and when we were there, we were eating peanuts, talking, and suddenly somebody said, "Okay, let's close our eyes and connect with the spirits." This is peanut mediumship. It can't go right. It can't go right, with all the respect. Kardec is saying it's dangerous. There are consequences. And one of the consequences, he says, is of these spirits connecting, attaching to us, and changing our lives in ways unforeseen because we gave them an ear without preparing ourselves for this exchange. So, as we're marching towards the wrap up, I want to thank you, Deise and Sergio, for being here with us and telling our friends. Kardec says here to us the importance of understanding this. Next week, when we come, we're going to discuss about mediums, types of mediums, and how the spirits, the mechanisms of mediumship, which is quite interesting. He's going to tell us about the simplest, fastest, and most convenient type of mediumship, which is quite surprising. And you have to come back next week or read the book to know of it. And most of all, Kardec states something next week we're going to revisit, but it serves today. He says, it would be erroneous to connect mediumship to a talent. Talents are acquired by work, and those who possess them are always master over them. Mediums are never master of their faculty because it depends on an outside will. Even if people say, I pay to do courses, I have a certificate, that doesn't make us a medium and doesn't justify us charging anything, because the spirits, as Sergio said at the beginning, the phone rings from there to here. We have zero control over the spirits. So we cannot say that mediumship is a talent. So it's for higher purposes, therapeutic purposes. Deise, what would you like to say as your final comment, please?
You know, Vanessa, as we're here talking about mediumship and reflecting, it comes to my mind Chico Xavier, because I don't think we can talk about the aim purpose of mediumship in modern times. Don't refer back to Chico Xavier, because he, with the talent that he had, in more than 500 books, incredible books, not only it's very deep books, all the messages, he never received a penny for it. He truly gave the rights of the books away, and he didn't turn his mediumship into a profession. He had his profession, and he psychographed in his lunchtime, later after work. So it it reminds me of exactly as Kardec started by this chapter saying, using this for a moral purpose. And that's what Chico Xavier did, to bring us light, to show us what happens in the beyond, bring us consolation, so much knowledge that we have things through him. So my final comments is just thinking of Chico and his example for all of us, because he never used his mediumship to be a fortune teller.
Exactly. Thank you, Deise. Sergio, please.
Daisy, you stole my idea. I was going to talk about Chico, but
Repeat it. There's so much to tell.
and actually, I'm going to finish with a request to all the people that do the translations and have the rights and things like that. Like the other one that I'm going to say is Yvonne de Amaral Pereira. That's another symbol of a medium that was amazing. She has the same quality of books of Chico, the same, even like deep, the same deepness of subjects, the same everything. And it was an inspiring medium that lived in poverty of as favor, like living in somebody's house as favor most of her life, giving away all the profits from her books. And I will request dearly that we have more translations to English on that. I don't know who has the rights or not, but like they are amazing books. Like they hook us up in like in those the dramas and the ways of that she write, the spirits bring, and it's so beautifully made. That's like we really request this, like because the American public English is more like the world public needs it, because everybody pretty much in the world will speak a little bit of English or some English, so we have to have this in English as soon as we can. I don't know who has the rights or not of
Yeah.
their or her publications, but please,
Brazilian Spiritist Federation.
please translate, Fab.
Yeah. If they could just hear us, right?
Right?
Right. Especially the book Dramas da Obsessão. Dramas of Obsession. That book,
It's amazing.
talking about mediumship, it's a book. If for those who are listening to us, we already promised here, we will bring a program on this book at Cardiac Radio soon. Meanwhile, you can go to the Spiritist magazine, the latest issue released on July 1st. We have a beautiful article by Dr. Bezerra de Menezes through Yvonne Pereira from the book Dramas of Obsession, where he talks about, it's the cover of the magazine. Spiritist centers are not a club.
Oh,
Period. Boom. All right, friends. So thank you so much, Deise and Sergio. Thank you, friends, for participating. We look forward to seeing you next week when we're going to talk all about mediums and mediumship. It's worth informing ourselves to know about ourselves and to share as well. Till next time, friend, we wish you many blessings. Thank you, friends.